Look at me making a video before it's like 11 o'clock at night. So together. Keep reminding me about this James Taylor CD. I keep forgetting. I will try and get it to you. Keep reminding me. Mom is doing much better. She still had to take a nap today and everything, but she's definitely perking up, which is good. Her story on Thursday about face planting made me think about how I got this lovely scar, which you can't actually see how big it is because of the lighting and everything, but pretty funny story, so I thought I might retell it. Probably have forgotten some of the details. I actually wrote an anecdote about it in my AP Lang class a few days ago. So for my 2011 spring break trip, I went with my BFF Katie to Hilton Head. Before we went, she told me that we were going to be biking a lot there. So I had to relearn how to bike because, as you know, I hadn't biked since I was like 8 because I hated it so much for many reasons, but it was really just a stressful experience for me. But I was determined that I was going to be totally fine and comfortable on a bike by the time we went. So I practiced with Mom a little, which scared me to death, but I finally kind of got the hang of it and was feeling ready to go take on the challenge of biking at Hilton Head. And the very first day we got there, we already had our bikes waiting in a line for us, and the first thing I noticed was that they didn't have the air brakes that I was used to. They had pedal back brakes, and I had no idea how to use those. Katie's parents went on ahead, and Katie said that she would teach me. Girl, you know, she was laughing at me, and I was getting so frustrated. Katie's like, hee hee hee. Eventually, I felt like I had this under control. Shoot. Went out and began bike ride. And for the first little bit, I was super nervous and very cautious because I didn't want to, fall over, do something stupid on the very first time. I was going to prove myself. But after a while, I started picking up some speed and stuff, even though they were very tight, curvy roads. I was feeling very confident now, and I let my focus wane a little bit, but I thought that, I had it under control. Then I got to the sharpest curve in the whole path that we went on. Because I'd let my focus wane, my bit of reaction time was off, and I did not turn my handlebars sharply enough to get to the curve. Because I didn't have the handbrakes that I was used to, I also was too late on the pedal back brakes, and as a result, I flew into a lovely palm tree. I had a nice crash sound that Katie came running back to, and I lay there on the ground for a second, and then I resolved to, pick myself up, brush myself off. Katie was never going to know that this was a big deal, and I totally smashed. She came back, and she said, "Oh, Rachel, we can go back. I never should have asked you to do this and stuff." And I was like, "No, I am fine. We can keep going. This is no big deal." And I got back on my bike and didn't stop going. And I did not happen to notice my knee. And even though it was stinging some, I didn't bother looking at it. It was fine. So we biked along. As we were biking, I noticed all these pedestrians coming by my bike and giving me these grotesque faces. And they were making me feel really insecure. And I figured by the end of it that they were probably staring at my knee because I could feel a little blood trickling down my shin. So I figured that they were just looking at that. Finally, we got to our destination, which was the beach. I checked out my shin for a second, and I realized that my entire front of my leg was just covered in blood. So, of course, I totally freaked out. Didn't say anything, still trying to pass it off like it was no big deal. So I ran to the bathroom really quickly, and obviously I needed some paper towels or toilet paper or something to wipe up all this blood, and the women's bathroom was out. So I stood there panicking for a second, and then this lady walked in, and we ended up becoming friends kind of as split second. She was my lookout while I ran into the guy's bathroom. I wiped up the blood as best as I could, and I had a band-aid on this insignificant bump on my leg. So I just ripped it off and tried to kind of put it over my ginormous hole in my knee, which didn't really work too well, but I tried. Went back out, biked home, and of course everybody heard about the story about me running into the tree. I passed it off like it was no big deal. I was totally fine. That tree just gave me a little scratch. And I went upstairs, and I had luckily brought an entire package of band-aids, so I had to use 4 to cover up the whole thing, but luckily they blended in with my skin pretty well, so they weren't really noticeable. I did that and no one seemed to notice, and they kind of forgot about it, but girl, it was not just a simple cut. Every morning when I'd wake up, it would be completely stiff, completely unable to move it. Because I woke up so much earlier than everybody else, I was able to silently hobble down the stairs and grab a mound of ice and just sit in the bathroom with ice on my knee for a while to try and cut down the swelling. I would doctor up my knee, try and rub it off. It never scabbed over. It was just had this kind of film over it, and it was kind of gross, but I was determined to take care of it completely by myself. So I did. Biked and ran and jogged like it was no big deal, even though the mobility in it was really affected, and it really hurt to move it in the range of motion you had to in order to pedal a bike, but I didn't show it. Shoot, I really probably should have gone to the hospital, even if they couldn't have stitched it back, which they really might not have been able to because there was just no skin left. They probably would have been able to give me some ointments or something to deal with possible infection, because I would have been totally screwed if it had gotten infected. expected, but it didn't. It's how I got my beautiful scar, and I doubt it'll ever go away. And it's a topic of conversation whenever I meet somebody new and they notice this giant mark on my knee, which actually looks so much better now than it used to. But it took months to heal. I remember rolling around doing different stuff for dance. When it finally got to where it scabbed over, having it rip open all the time, bleeding on stage, having that same blood down the shin problem. So it was definitely a very long-lasting injury, but I survived. So anyways, that's my story. Hopefully you have had a lovely Monday. I love you, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye!